good?
Fine, that's not good.
Would you mind
No,
if we
it's-
get
I-
started?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Sorry. You just.
Okay, this is the Town of Woodbridge Board of Finance regular monthly meeting, Thursday, October 18th, 2018. The first item on our agenda is public comments, and seeing none, I will turn it over to Tony Genovese for his report.
Thank you, Matt. So far in the first quarter of the fiscal year, we have a surplus, budgetary surplus, about $115,000. Our fund balance projection is up to about 11.1% for the end of the fiscal year. Our interest income is doing well. We have a surplus about $50,000 there. Because the in our finance department, we eliminated a payroll position and combined that with a couple of other positions. It's about a $40,000 savings in the finance office. The library has eliminated a part-time bookkeeper position and has incorporated that within their staff. So there's a savings of about $15,000 at the library. Because of the recycling problem that we're having, there's a we used to, just as background, we used to get probably, we used to get money for our recycling. So all the commodities, paper, plastic, all that, we used to generate a surplus where we have a credit, where we used to get a credit for our recycling, $15, $20 a ton, somewhere around there. It would change, would fluctuate. We're now paying for our recycling.
Why is that?
And it's going to be, it's right now 20, probably go to about $30 to $35 a ton. Keeping in mind we pay $62 a ton for our regular waste. The reason is because the contamination of the recycling and the plastics issue that you've been reading about.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get rid of plastics, and a lot of the plastic is contaminated with broken glass when we do the single stream recycling.
Why did
Glass.
they change that? My wife still separates everything.
The
And
glass.
The guy
breaks-
keeps telling her, don't waste your
It's
time.
supposed to be easier for people, but as a result of that, that whole problem has caused some of the people can't get rid of plastic. Basically,
Yeah.
it's the plastics that's the big problem. Single-use plastic, the bottles, and all that. So there's no market really for plastic, and that's sort of what's causing the problem.
So if we actually separated
The glass,
our recycling glass,
right?
would we not have to pay?
It's bigger than just Woodbridge
Mhm.
because we're in a 5, 6, 7 region where we all sort of, and it's an education thing. Now you have to tell people that they got to separate out their glass, whereas we just finished telling everybody that we have to combine everything. So it's definitely an issue.
Okay.
And I think we're sort of watching the commodity prices, and it sort of fluctuates based on how much the paper and the cardboard and how much you get for each of those versus the glass and the plastic. So stay tuned.
Do you know if the other towns are interested in not doing single
One
stream
of the,
anymore?
I think it's a state directive, single stream recycling,
Really?
if I'm not mistaken. Yep.
State directive that now we have to pay for.
Yeah.
Great.
We have to pay for it.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. So it's not an end in sight at the moment, but
So you mentioned about changing some components of the operation at the transfer station. Is that proceeding? Is that anything
yes,
you can share?
we have our bids due tomorrow for our scale.
Okay.
So we'll open the bids for the scale, get a timeline on that installation, and then once we do that, there's some changes to the ordinance that the selectmen have to do, and so they'll take care of that and set the fee and the procedures at the transfer station, and then I'm hoping that will offset this cost, which is why I didn't factor it into.
Yeah,
Right.
got it.
But
Yeah.
here we thought we'd have a savings
Right.
from the changes at the transfer station. So
Yeah.
obviously
Well,
that
you could charge for recycling. I mean, if you wanted to. I mean, we're gonna say we charge, $80 a ton for solid waste. You could charge for recycling.
Yeah.
If
But
you
I don't
wanted.
want to.
You don't have to, but
negatively
I mean that's
impact
that's an option.
what people are already recycling. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to give people incentive not to do it.
Right. Which is one of the benefits of recycling is that you know, we were getting money for recycling and
Yeah.
paying $60. Now the spread between the two is getting closer. So,
Well, I wanna
I know we're
commend,
exploring it a little more detail and getting more information for the sustainability
Mhm.
committee.
Is there any place else that we can take our recycling?
It's sort of a statewide problem. So we actually have a better deal than some
Okay.
places. Some places are getting charged more. We have, because we're with a lot of communities, we have our recycling with, you know, a lot of the
Because
bigger cities.
the state needs to address this
Yeah.
then, in a big way. I
Yeah.
mean, this is not a little issue.
Yep.
After November 6th,
Yes,
it'll
Yeah.
probably,
yeah,
Right
maybe go
now-
through another cycle.
right, nothing
Okay.
wants to, no one wants to touch
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanna commend both the finance department and the library for cutting back on positions. I think we're continually asked about this, you're always adding, you're never
Mhm.
take anything away, and here's evidence that, all aspects of the town are looking at, saving money, and redistributing work to become more efficient.
Correct. That's the
So-
idea, is to redistribute
Yeah.
work. Things change.
Yep.
You know, things evolve. You should take advantage of, so I try to explain to people.
Yeah.
Take advantage of, you know, the changes and reassign work and,
Mm-hmm.
so,
Well, I think it's great. Thank you, Tony,
Okay.
and thank you, Eric.
yep.
Okay, any questions? The audit status, Ken.
Tomorrow's our last day in the field, and they've been here for about 3 weeks, I think. And then they'll be complete with their audit, and so we hope to have a draft by Thanksgiving. There are no outstanding issues that I'm aware of. Things are going well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Woodbridge Board of Ed financial report, you gonna cover that, Cindy?
Okay, we'll do that.
But just to say, it looks like a $172,000 deficit.
Yes, it's an increasing number.
Anything else, Tony?
No, that's it.
Okay, budget guidelines,
So on the budget guidelines, I just wanted to see if anyone had any other thoughts on that. I know we're working with some departments to help cost some of their programs out, get some information on some of their programs, so you have more information during, as we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue is, we're trying to encourage departments to think through their operation to try to become more efficient. I mean, some of these issues have taken years to develop, so try to unwind some of the, you know, some, where you're always adding, like you suggested, and not redistributing or changing, or maybe looking at what you do. We've been talking about this, Betsy and I, a lot, is what exactly are the services you provide, and do you have to provide all those services?
Mm-hmm.
Just because you've always provided them, and how many people are actually taking advantage of those services? Is it worth, this is some of the questions that we're trying to get information on for the budget process.
So is there something that we could request from departments, to present to us, kind of an analysis along these lines of their budget? Like, everybody has to present one portion of their budget in that format.
We could definitely indicate to departments that they need, some departments are easier to do that than others.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But some service departments versus those who have the programs,
Yeah.
you know, versus say Public Works.
Mhm.
Is there something that Public Works does that, you know, is it necessary? I mean, I don't know, you know, we have to look through, I mean, some are easier than others, but yeah, we can certainly.
Because they do, provide us with some performance indicators.
Mhm.
And they should relate their budget
Right.
to that work that they need to do, even
Mhm.
if they need to elaborate more
Right.
on those indicators.
We can do that.
Just so that they start drawing the connection between what they do and the services that they provide.
Right.
And to enable them to say, well, do we need to continue to do that
Right,
service?
right, right.
There's not so much of it, or.
Right, or maybe that was something that was popular 10 years ago, that's not so much anymore, or maybe
Right,
we can,
right.
you know, this sort of critical thinking.
Mhm.
And I try to encourage departments to make changes and to be proactive about it before somebody tells you what you
Mhm.
have to do.
Mhm, mhm.
Do it how you know.
Right, so maybe instead of just continuing with the indicators that they've had,
Uh-huh.
is to dig a little deeper
Sure.
and relate those indicators to their budget.
Yeah, okay.
And how
We
it
can do that.
relates to the number of
We'll have to
people
meet
they
with,
have.
yeah, we'll meet with we'll probably meet with them individually and,
Yes,
and
it'll take
yeah,
a lot more work
yeah.
and thinking, but I think if we can start to orient people in that direction,
Sure.
then both the heads of the departments and the commissions will
Mhm.
start to think that way over time.
Right, and that's the key, over
Mhm,
time.
mhm,
It's not
yeah.
so, it's like turning a ship, you're not gonna turn it around in 1 year.
Right,
You sort of
right.
have to change a way of sort of thinking. So that's gonna take several years,
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah.
But we've made a lot of progress so far.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I think that if they were prepared for getting asked a few more questions,
Yeah. I think that's-
then maybe they would
And
think
that's what I'm
about
gonna,
this
I think that's a great point. I was gonna tell people, be
prepare some
prepared,
questions for each
be
one.
prepared to have questions asked
Yeah.
about your programs in more detail.
Mhm.
How many people do you service? Have you had,
Mhm.
have you had an increase? Is it something that's really still valuable, or can your resources be used in other places? What about this? What about that? Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, even if you looked at Public Works, there's obviously a large amount of money that is paid out to other contractors
That's a
to
good
do work.
example, right,
Okay, and so that's fine, that continues, that's market driven.
right,
But what about the work that they do?
right,
And how do you really capture that in
Mhm.
terms of performance indicators?
right.
In terms of services they're providing, and it's not every little thing,
But there's like a lot of, in each, a lot of departments, there's a few major things
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
drive a lot of the cost of the budget.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, so, in Public Works, there's probably 3 or 4 things that they do that take up most of their time.
Mhm.
Whether it's paving
Right.
and the, roadside cleanup and,
Sure.
just to give you an idea, I think that's a good idea, to give you an idea of how many hours are spent on each task.
Mhm.
That's probably a good idea. So you see the types of things they do and how many man hours are involved in each one.
Mhm, mhm.
And don't forget, you have to somehow, looking at programs, for example, numbers of folks and how many use it, and then
Mhm.
are the residents gonna be all up in arms because they've had this for 20 years, even though there's 10 people doing it, there used to be 50. There's an explanation that has to go along with it to the residents,
Mhm,
so you
mhm.
have to kind of, if they can justify it, it's fine, But
Well,
we'll hear about it.
we
have
It's
to-
something that's a popular programming.
We have
Sure.
to, that's true, and it's sometimes about capturing the right data.
Yep.
Mhm.
Let's say there's a program that has 1,000 attendees for the year.
Mhm.
Is that one person 1,000 times? I mean, is it 10 people
Right.
100 times?
Correct.
Or is it
Exactly.
1,000 different people?
Mhm.
Sometimes that data is not available.
Right.
Mhm.
Or
We've run into that.
perhaps several different departments offer the same thing
That's true too.
at different times. Maybe there's a combination that could happen, so
Yeah.
no one's angry.
That's a
It's
good point.
just
Mhm.
somebody, one department running all of that specific thing. So.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, part of it is though, if you're just dealing with small components, where do you really achieve the savings? I mean, just because, let's say you cut that out, does that mean you can actually cut something from your budget? And the answer is
Right.
not always yes.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Or you raise the rates for the program, and then
Mhm.
people decide it's not worth it anymore. I don't know. These
Mhm.
are all these things that's
Mhm.
way above my pay grade,
Mhm.
clearly, but
Mhm.
gotta, but gotta get looked at, and, clearly we don't wanna have a lot of angry residents either. They count on these things.
Sure,
And,
absolutely.
it's a fine mix.
Mhm.
Thank goodness we
Right.
have Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So.
Okay, anything
Good,
else?
sorry.
That's okay.
As the Board of Selectmen have actually, discussed it a few times.
Right.
And then for whatever reason, we put it on the agenda, and then certain selectmen weren't there that night, and because we were trying to come up with a directive to give to you guys, and it just didn't happen. I guess we can ask again in November, but it's almost gonna be for operating at this point, because clearly capital, that ship has sailed.
Right.
Everything's gone, so it is what it is. We tried.
Funding requests. We just have one, and it's really just moving donations for, maybe just discuss Arden's Garden. Just to get into discussion, I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 1819-03 in the amount of $30,750.
Second.
Okay, just wanna mention what this is about.
Robin Schaefer, Four Flowers, her mom, as you know, passed away within the past year, I think, and
Mhm.
she is donating this money to have a garden. I don't know if you saw the Woodbridge Town News, but there was actually, Leslie Martino was designing it. It's gonna be on the town green, and this is the cost, and I believe maintenance is also included, because you never know.
Correct.
You never know how long that lasts, but
Yep. Includes some maintenance.
yeah, Adam Parsons was involved, Leslie Martino, Tony was involved, Betsy was involved. I sat in on one of the two meetings, and I guess there's an opportunity as well, why am I losing my voice, to put trees as well as replace some of the things that had to get taken down, but at this point, it's just a lovely garden, and I think we have.
One tree. It's
One tree
$30,000.
Oh, and one tree donated by the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen, so it's $30,000 for the garden and then $750 for the tree.
Joe Crisco came up with that idea, I'll give him credit.
Whereabouts on the green is this?
This end,
It's gonna be right out here.
Oh, okay.
this
Yeah.
end,
Okay.
so.
Okay, any
We
questions?
have photos and stuff, I didn't
Yeah.
think we needed them, but it's covered, and it's a lovely thing in memory, and there'll be a plaque in memory of her mom. And I think there's something in memory of her dad at the
There is.
nearby
Yeah.
as well, a tree or something,
Yeah.
I can't remember where it is, so.
We're
It's a
not
nice thing.
setting a precedent, are we? Where if Joe Jones wants to
Well-
do it for his father?
Good thing you asked, we now have a committee to keep that under control. At the Fitzgerald, we have rules now as well as here, and there'll be other opportunities for people who wanna do trees, but it's under control, cause we have a committee, Betsy Agles.
We have a plan that if people want to donate that, if it's into that plan,
Mhm.
that's okay, as opposed to just like,
In
put
other
this
words,
here,
you
put
can't
that
come
here,
and
put
say,
this
I
here.
wanna put,
Right.
100
Yeah.
trees
Yeah.
here or there, no.
Okay.
This is the plan, and if you choose to donate, this
For
is,
parts of
you
that
get to
plan,
pick
yeah.
something that the existing plan that's in place, that's how you get to pick. That way it won't be, crazy stuff all over the place, so. Betsy Agles been working on that, it's great.
Okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes. We have the minutes of the regular monthly meeting of Thursday, September 20th. And I will move acceptance of the minutes of the September 20th meeting as presented.
Second.
Any corrections or adjustments?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Paul, you're an abstain. Beth?
Thank you. Try not to talk too much. Just an update on our first selectmen's report on October 10th. We have received another proposal, a new proposal for the Country Club of Woodbridge from Robert Sachs, who's the developer of Fieldstone Village in Orange. And we got an initial sort of, it wasn't really a proposal, it was more just a letter of intent. So, because it's the first time the board had seen it, we had executive session, we reviewed it, and it was agreed upon that, the selectmen had some suggestions which we're going to bring back to Mr. Sachs, and, as soon as we can tell the board more about it, the public more about it, we will. But, I just want to keep you apprised of that, so we now have possibly 2
Okay.
interests.
Great.
And as soon as things happen, I promise to let everybody know. Actually, the same evening on October 10th, I think it was September 27th, there was a terrible rainstorm in town. I was packing, because we were going out to Colorado for my son's wedding, but we had something like 8 inches of rain in hours or something. It was terrible. And there was a lot of flooding and a lot of homes were impacted. It was over soon, but unfortunately there was a lot of damage to many homes in the town.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm. So the state of Connecticut decided to undertake an initial damage assessment to estimate the extent of damage to see if we could combine with other municipalities qualify for FEMA funds. So we had to quick, fast, in a hurry put something together, 2 meetings. There was one for the public on the 10th and another one the next day on the 11th. And folks did come in. I think we had 15 or so, 15, 16 homeowners who came in, showing all of their damages, receipts, everything else. And that has been sent in. It's just had to be done very quickly. So I have to emphasize again to the public as well as anyone listening, and you guys too, there's no guarantee that any funding will be granted, but we thought we'd give it a try to help the homeowners. I already told you guys about the Amity Finance Committee, but I was updating the Board of Selectmen that night because you heard it before they did. So anyway, and then as you know, Town Plan and Zoning Commission has held a couple public hearings regarding changes to zoning regulations, and there was one on the last one was on, they had one on September 20th, and then they had another one on October 15th, and I think that hearing has been continued again till November 6th, and then if everything goes as planned, the zoning regs will be voted upon. And just an update, it's not really a financial thing, but I just want to let you know that I've just made a couple of staffing changes, no money involved at all. Betsy Agler is going to really take on a big push with economic development efforts because it's a big thing. We have to get it done. Just so you know I told you last month that the CERC report was going to be presented to us at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, but it's not complete yet, so you'll hear about it, I hope, at the November Board of Finance meeting, because we hope to hear about it at the Board of Selectmen meeting in November. And Sheila's going to take on more communications that Betsy has been doing, so Betsy can really drill down and help once we get the CERC report and have some direction, ways we can try to improve economic development in our town. It's hard because we have a small commercial district, but we're going to try everything we can. And I think that's it.
That's it?
Nothing else to, anybody have any questions for me? Anything?
Okay, liaison reports. We had a meeting at Amity on Monday. The new superintendent of schools will be starting November 15th, which is good. Everything I'm hearing is terrific. Where she's coming from is in Ledyard, I believe. People are wishing her the best, but they're going to miss her badly. She's really well liked, so hopefully it's going to be a good
Is she a superintendent now?
assistant superintendent
Assistant.
of Ledyard. Yeah. And I've heard glowing reports from everybody, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
Wonderful.
We always hold our breath at the October meeting because we get the what we call the average daily membership numbers, which is how many kids we have but in addition to Bethany and Orange, and what that'll do to our percentage of the budget. The budget very simply, you take the number of kids from each town and add them up. In this case, there's a total of 2,190. You then use a numerator of your kids divided by the 2,190 to come up with a percentage. Our percentage, we have actually 5 fewer students this year than we did last year. We went from 679 to 674. So we have 5 fewer students at Amity. Orange has 2 fewer students. Bethany has 27 fewer students.
Wow.
So with all that, even though we have 5 fewer students, our allocation goes up by 118,548. Orange's goes up by 331,549, and Bethany, add the 2 up, Bethany's goes down by 450,000. I don't know what's going on in Bethany, but they're predicting fewer and fewer and fewer. I don't know what's going on. So again, despite the fact we had less students, our number is going to go up by 118,548. So I decided to play around with this a little.
Why is that?
Because of the numbers. it's the percentage.
It's just a percentage.
It's a percentage of your
Yeah.
total
Okay.
students, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had one year where, same thing, I think we went up by 300-something thousand.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Really?
So, you know, people talk about, oh, well, you know, we'll put housing down, we'll, you know, if, let's say that somebody put up 10 units and one kid per unit, because let's be honest, these units, people are moving into Woodbridge for the schools, plain and simple. All you gotta do is go down to Litchfield Turnpike when those school buses drop off in the afternoon and see the kids that flock off that bus and go into those two-family houses in Merritt Avenue, and it's, people are renting houses to send their kids to the schools. So I played around with the numbers a little, and if our number went up, instead of going down, it went up by 10 students, that's all. Amity now, because Beecher would be a different story, because we control the whole budget. 10 additional students would cost us $346,970. Now, when people say, "Oh, well, you tell me if we build 10 units, if they would reap anything near, if you collected 60,000 in property taxes on those 10 units, it would be a lot, and it would cost us just in Amity fees if they went to Amity. I'm making a lot of
That's not
300,
bad.
close to $350,000. So when you hear about, I mean, because there's one of the things that was brought up at the
Zoning.
town planning zoning meeting the other night that got Beth to her feet immediately was a petition was submitted, signed by the business owners down in Amity, asking that the 55 and over approved village district be changed to just regular housing. The effects of something like that would be, could be devastating. I mean, imagine if you make
opine
this.
on it, but
No, you didn't.
I did say.
You were asking about it though.
It is a petition.
Right.
And do they act upon it? And
Right.
they don't. So it could perhaps, stay tuned in the future, come forward as a proposal from the business owners of that already approved over 55 proposal, because they have to come back and ask for a change of use, or they're gonna resubmit if they choose to do it. But Jeff, said, nope, we just take the petition, we accept it, and nothing happens to it. It's just,
If that were to change,
But-
and this is my opinion, it could be disagreed with, or, but I don't know. If they ever were to do that, change that designation to just regular, and they were allowed to build 2-bedroom units and whatever, in my opinion, I know they made a presentation one time, and 6 or 8 students. Are you serious? Aside from, I mean, we say it, and I know we've all lived it, the traffic in the morning it's atrocious. My wife had to go for a test in Hamden early. She came back Monday. She said she went up Litchfield Turnpike. She couldn't take a left. It was backed up. She finally cut across, and the traffic was backed up past Blue Check. It's just, I mean, put 150 units down there of housing. Oh my God. It's just, so hopefully, so this petition came through, and he wouldn't discuss who signed it or who started it or whatever.
it's all
but-
public.
Yeah.
We all.
We
have
know,
copies.
we know who started it, but I'm not gonna mention it. So, it was, the meeting Beth refers to was quite raucous, and I'll leave it at that. It was quite raucous, the town planning and zoning meeting, so. But I guess one thing, they've taken, I don't understand, they've taken out the residential zone, the T4 zone, is that what it's called? I don't know. Yeah, just
Right. Could perhaps be revisited.
Right.
As of now.
And the people
It's
were
not
screaming,
included.
it's not, they don't even want to mention in the regulations. They don't even want to take it out entirely. That was the big, I would say that was the number one thing. Get it out, take it out, don't even mention it. And, so it was, I was gonna get up actually and mention this about, I'll do it at the next meeting. About, cause there was once, they did allow someone to build 6 units. 6 units, wasn't it? But they changed the
Is it
entire,
6 up above?
Yeah.
I think it's
about
6.
that many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the process, they had to change the zone. So now that whole area, this is Hazel Terrace, up in
Yeah.
that area,
Oh, uh-huh.
that whole area now,
Well, it was gonna be larger, but
yeah.
it
you
actually
can
got
build-
scaled back.
Yeah, but you can build apartments, which, again,
It's not a lot of room now. though,
No, it's not a lot of room, and
pretty
I guess they cut it way down in
Yeah.
size.
in size.
600
and
square
size,
feet or something.
600 square feet apartments,
I mean,
Not gonna have too much room.
a person could buy an 800 square foot unit with 2 bedrooms and have 3 kids in there. Good. Good. So it's a hot topic, hot button issue rather, so we will see. But other than that, Amity's doing okay. They're, my pet peeve, that medical number was much larger this past month. And I said, well, that's probably because, the school year starts and people over the summer take care of all their medical needs and whatever, so we'll see what happens. And that's about it. I chaired the meeting, by the way, because the chairman wasn't there, and what's usually a 1-hour meeting was 20 minutes.
Or so efficient.
It should be first selectman.
That's what people, no, I think that's what people said, gee, could you chair the meetings more
We have
often?
2 hour, sometimes longer.
Yeah, I could never. I watch your meetings.
Kidding.
And, no.
Yeah.
Paul, do you have anything?
Yeah, we had a new officer sworn in. He comes to us from Milford. We're at 24 officers currently. We may have an officer retire in January or so. So it's possible that we need to hire 2 more officers in the next few months. We're a little bit over on overtime because of the storms and so on and so forth. I think that's about all for the police department.
Okay, thank you. Andy?
Yep, so Recreation met on September 24th. I couldn't make the meeting, but I have the minutes and some emails that were going around. So Betsy presented the beautification plan to the commission. One quote that they put in here, which I kind of liked, is to provide a place to linger for residents of the town center. Talked about the town green, which you discussed.
I've wanted to do it since I moved here. Place to go, to stop.
Great, it's good.
It's, Betsy did a great job. It's
Mhm.
really wonderful.
Yep. So for the Beecher pool, they talked about the Dectron dehumidification unit. So it wasn't working, something to do with the bearings that had been previously replaced about 6 months ago. So the pool is currently closed.
Oh, the pool's closed.
Yes.
Really? Because of
Yes.
mold
I'll give
issues
you a
and-
little more of an update. Yeah, I went to a meeting
Affected
on
by-
Monday.
Of course.
I figured you would do it.
Of course, that was one of the major things we did, well, it was the
Yep.
major thing we did for the pool with this $13 million bond issue. It's been a problem around long,
Yeah. Yeah, they said when the school was renovated, that was the most costly part of the project. So there was an email from the teacher to all the parents about how, the Tuesday and Thursday, free swim during extended day, that's closed for, I think they estimated 4 to 5 weeks. So they're working on it.
Might be quicker,
Might be quick.
because every time we say that, something happens, so
That's true.
go with 4 to 5 weeks and
Yeah.
then.
Manage
you can,
expectations.
under promise and over deliver.
More importantly is, again, we spent all this money, $13 million, and why is this thing, it's brand new? It's been nothing but a problem. I mean, you go back to whoever installed it and say, fix it, now, and that's what's gonna eventually have to happen. I mean,
Well,
if
Van
it was your
Van
house.
Zelm is making this part of their
Right.
report
Okay.
also,
Right.
so it's all incorporated
The
together.
bottom line is we have to take care of it now.
Yeah.
And
Right.
function as a school and
Yeah.
as a community, and then whatever happened, we'll deal with it after it's repaired, so that everybody's made whole now. We can't have kids and parents in those schools, and it's, okay,
Right.
sorry.
Sorry, Andy.
Did you have anything?
But also as long as we're talking about this, so just to follow up on that, there's 2 components, there's the dehumidification unit, and then there's the impact on the water temperature and the humidity and the amount of moisture. And so they had, John Ladano from, QBHC, Quinnipiac Valley Health Department, come in, and he was gonna make the final determination about whether the pool needed to be closed or not. My sense is that it is closed.
He did.
So it has
He
remained
did,
closed.
yes it is.
Right, okay. And that,
Remember in the old days when you could open up a door and let
Yes.
fresh air come in, and
Right,
the school has to be secure now in these times, so.
yeah, yeah,
And it just
You
builds.
can't- you can't
It's a
leave
fresh
it
air
as it is.
component.
Right,
correct.
yeah,
Right.
that would help, but we can't do it.
You can't do it.
Not
Okay.
now.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have too much more. The outdoor pool is closed for the season. Everything's been put away. The Truck or Treat Halloween event, we're up to the 7th annual event,
Wow.
happening October 31st. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I was not at the library meeting, but I do have the minutes, and they met on October 9th, and the Friends of the Library is having their holiday sale at the end of November, and the date will get published. And they are gonna highlight special books that can be given as gifts. So that's the focus of that sale. There was basement flooding in the library.
Really?
Yeah, and it was cleaned up promptly. I don't believe that they're asking for any additional assistance at all with that, but
Was it related to the rain
yeah,
that night?
yeah,
Oh.
it was related to
It was
the
gonna
rain.
come in, it was gonna come in that night.
Yeah, yeah. And they have decided to cancel the lynda.com software subscription. I guess they're not getting enough usage. And they're considering replacing it with Canopy, which provides movie streaming, including foreign films. So again, they're trying to find another venue that the residents are looking for. And the Foot School has requested to use the library parking lot to pick up and drop off Woodbridge residents. There are about 20 students. Not all 20 students will probably take the van, but they're under discussions to see if they can make that work or not, and what the liability is associated with
Is
it.
that the little parking lot to the left or the parking lot near the center building?
I
you know?
think it's the one to the left, the smaller one, not the main one. And then the Finance Committee and Facilities Committee for the Beecher Board met on Monday. And they are gonna hear on October 31st the report from Energy Systems Group, ESG, on kind of the measurement and verification of the savings from the whole project, related to all the upgrades that were done and the savings in energy. So we'll hear about that, and then they will decide if they think it's worth doing this report every year, because they have to actually pay for this report, or not, to kind of settle up in terms of whether money is due to them or not. With regard to the finances, they are projecting a deficit of $172,000. About 90+ thousand is coming from the cleanup that they had to do with ServPro over the facilities issues that happened. It was over a weekend, and so that cleanup cost them $50,000. That's also what prompted the Van Zelm report, and that's $34,000. So that has actually put that estimate above where they thought it would be. And Van Zelm will deliver a preliminary report in about 3 weeks. They are going to have to hire 2 new teaching assistants related to special ed. So that's actually not even in these numbers yet. So the number that we're looking at is going to be rather large to be carried forward for right now. They also did prepare their capital budget based on the report that Jim Siza from Amity did a walkthrough with them, and Vito, who is their facilities person. And the amount, based on the directive to tell us what you need, is quite large. And that is the reason for having a walkthrough on Monday at 5 p.m. so that you can actually see what they are talking about. I've made it clear to them that they need to prioritize their requests. The total as of, and this hasn't been approved by the Board of Ed yet, for fiscal year 20 is $935,000. And that does include a placeholder of $500,000 for the Van Zelm report, so that could be a good deal lower based on what they recommend needs to be done. But there's a lot of other work that wasn't included in the, major project, that they've identified and tried to spread out over, the 6-year period. But I think it's important that we all see what they're talking about, so that, when it comes time to consider how much we're willing to fund, we have knowledge of what we think can wait. So,
I think Beecher needs to be told that they're not the only game in town. I mean,
no.
we sold that project to the taxpayers of Woodbridge with the, not we, I don't wanna say it, but the board and the Board of Selectmen, that this would hold Beecher Road School in good stead for the next 15 to 20 years. To now come forward with $1 million proposal, it's not gonna get my vote, I'll tell you right now.
Well, I think that's the importance of understanding what's there, and there is a $500,000 placeholder. They don't know what it's going to be from Van Zant.
But whatever Van Zelm comes up with,
Mhm.
if I'm understanding it correctly, is gonna be deficiencies in the $13 million project.
That's correct.
And, I mean, at what point does somebody say, enough? We've gotta find out who's responsible. We spent all this money
Correct.
to avoid all these problems. We got the pool unit failing left and right. We put a brand new unit in. We shouldn't be talking about it.
Right.
So
And-
there's gotta be some, and I don't know what the word is, but we've gotta find out what went wrong.
Accountability.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly.
And I think that they're also
Right.
very interested in understanding
Right.
that as well. You know, they're the stewards of the building at this point, but they were not the designers of the systems
Well,
that
they-
went in there.
the
So this is
designers.
a collaborative effort to really understand what needs to be done. And, the pool, okay, and the Van Zelm report remediation, okay, is something that was included, in the project that we funded.
I just hope the Van Zelm report, if they start talking about equipment we replaced within the $13 million project is not enough, it's the wrong equipment, that we get a handle on, well, then who suggested we do this?
Correct,
I mean,
but.
I'm a taxpayer, you know, I'm talking as a taxpayer probably more than anything now.
Right.
I agreed I voted for this thing, I'm paying my taxes on it, and it's been nothing but a disaster between broken pipes and mold and dehumidification problems, and I mean, my God, we spent all this money and all we're having is problems.
Right, but you have to understand, for the first, year and a half, things were fine, all right? They were, there was a noticeable improvement. The teachers, the students, the parents, they were all really, really pleased with what happened. But now things are starting to fail, and the issue is why.
Right.
But again, I think that, Beecher didn't design this. We had a building committee.
Right.
We contracted with, contractors and services and engineers
Mhm.
to design what was needed for that building.
Mhm.
So the answer is somewhere in between. Probably some of it is how was it cared for, but a lot of it is what was designed and how good was the equipment that was put in there.
Hopefully Van Zelm will
And-
give us these answers.
Correct, but
Yeah.
that's why the town actually needs to be involved in resolving these issues.
And our
It is not-
attorneys need to be involved.
Yes, correct. It is not just
Attorney.
Beecher Road School.
He is. Correct?
Again, I'm not, forget Board of Finance. As a taxpayer, as a citizen,
Correct, I
I'm
understand.
tired of hearing about all this, I don't know, Paul, what do you're involved with a lot of this stuff, are you put off at all by this
Well,
stuff?
I agree with you, Matt.
Yeah.
But I think we have to drill down and take a close look at what this report says.
Yeah.
And then we can go from there.
Right.
But I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I want this under control every bit as much as you do.
I think everyone does.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
But we
upsetting.
have to fix it.
Yeah, it's upsetting.
It's gotta get fixed, and then the what and how and who, and as you say, accountability will come after.
It's just, who
It's
in their
unfortunate.
wildest dreams, after we were handed the building and here you are, you're all set, expected all this to happen?
Right.
It's been one disaster after another.
They're not happy.
The pool
about
is
it, I can
closed.
tell you
No
that.
one's happy.
It's
No
terrible.
one's happy.
The pool is closed, it's terrible.
No one is
Right.
happy, trust me.
Just a little bit after the warranty period.
Yeah, probably. Well, they were, I've also heard that they've got problems with the boilers. That, if you remember, we put those in, we got those in sooner, before the project started, we approved that, am I right?
Correct.
Yes, that was
Yes.
before it
And,
started.
I'm hearing that they've had problems with the boilers that they've repaired. And it's not maintenance type stuff, it's problems with the boilers. And I said, well, again, somebody's gotta pick up the phone and call whoever it was that installed the boilers and say, what's going on with our boilers here? It's not maintenance stuff, they're failing. And,
Maybe it even goes back to the manufacturer, I don't know.
exactly, exactly. So, I just think that, I know I'm gonna be asking a million questions, because, again, I'm talking now as a taxpayer. As a taxpayer, I wanna know what's going on over there. I
Right.
mean,
Well, Van Zelm will be in the best position to basically answer.
don't expect them to
those.
say everything's fine and dandy.
No.
It's gonna
Why
come
would
back
they
with
do
a
that?
lot of problems
I'm
with,
sure they won't.
right.
If-
And then
if
you're gonna
they're
see,
doing it
you
the
know,
right way.
it's not my fault, it's his fault, it's not, I didn't do that, you know, well, that's what we're gonna have to
The
start.
only building we've never had trouble with is Public Works.
Yeah.
Seriously, that went up, it's operational, no complaints.
And Amity,
beautiful.
Amity, we had a major project, and again, we do have a Jim Sice over there, but they've never had major problems.
Well,
Never.
we had mold,
Well, that was taken care of though with the project.
correct,
Yeah.
but we had,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
there was, as I remember, there was
Yes.
a $3 million
Huge,
referendum
yes.
to get rid of them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
After the building was built,
Yeah.
so it happens.
Well, let's see, you know, like I said, I mean, you know, we have a capital plan that we go over year after year.
Mhm.
Every year we meet for 2 nights, put it together, and we tell people, or put it out 3 years, and then it comes forward and we'll deal with it. And now all of a sudden, we're gonna drop $1 million on this thing?
No, no, no,
That's
no.
not the way it works.
No,
No.
but what you had asked for is that everybody tells us what they need.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll prioritize. So they're telling you, if you look at everything, okay, based on Jim's assessment and what he thinks needs to be done, that's what's in this plan.
Mhm.
Now, again, it hasn't been approved yet by the Board of Ed, so that number could change.
Mhm.
Things could be pushed off, but that's the whole reason for the walkthrough, the Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance on Monday evening.
Hopefully you all got the notice.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
Maybe at
yeah,
5, 'cause we're
Karen
Selectmen.
sent it out to us.
Right.
And they're meeting at the cafeteria at 5.
At cafeteria,
Cafeteria.
okay, great, thank you.
Bring sneakers.
Yep.
Don't
Okay.
forget that number will change.
Oh, I'm
you
sure,
know,
I'm
depending
sure,
on
but,
what the Van
you
Zelm-
know, I heard about this, I
Yes.
Yeah.
just heard about this latest $1 million, and I'm not happy.
But it might not be that.
Well, it might not be. I'm not happy with anything.
So-
Anything to do with that building
Remain
is,
calm.
I'm
No,
not
no, no,
calm.
but there
I'm not
were
calm.
things, you have to understand, Matt, there were things that were not part of the project that need to be done over a period of time.
Right.
And whether it's replacing doors, replacing cabinets, replacing rugs, things like that, were not part of the original
And I
project.
think some of it is also building and grounds. I wasn't at
Yes,
facilities,
there
which
is.
that's been pending for a long time,
long
since I was
time,
been
yeah.
on the board,
And-
selectmen.
And they really want to
Yeah, and we
move
were kinda
forward with
hoping we could
that.
do some of it in-house, so,
That was my understanding
yeah,
of the ground, the erosion thing,
yeah.
that we would do it
And
ourselves,
the
and now they
swale
wanna
and
get
things
it.
like that, but
And I'm
maybe-
sure that's in there now,
We'll see.
yeah. Anything else? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
See you on November 15th, if not sooner.